Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to choose the right rod for your lures so you can get the best possible cast and avoid all those unnecessary tangles. Let's get straight into it. When it comes to choosing the right rod for your lures or any other type of fishing you're doing, one of the most useful pieces of information is always on the rod. So it's very helpful if you understand what this information means. For example, this rod is a 23 TD Hyper, which is basically the 2023 model of the TD Hyper by Daiwa. It says 701 ml XS. These numbers mean the rod is a 7-foot one-piece rod. The ML XS means that it's a medium light action rod. And then if you look at the cast weight, it casts 4 to 14 grams, and then it has the line weight of 2 to 6 kilos. So for this rod in particular, it means anything under 4 grams won't load the blank, so you won't get a good cast. And when you wind your line back in, you won't have much tension on your line, and on your next cast, you're most likely to have a tangle. Whereas the 14 grams is the maximum cast weight that this rod is rated for. So if whatever you're casting weighs more than 14 grams, there's a very high chance that you snap the tip of the rod. But the closer you are to the 14 grams, the better your cast will be. Whereas the closer you are to the 4 grams, it'll still cast, but just not as well. And then that 2 to 6 kilogram rating, that's referring to the recommended line class that you use on this rod. So the manufacturer recommends that you use a line between 2 kilos and 6 kilos on this fishing rod. Now this information is really important because if this was the rod you were using, that's how you would know which lures would cast the best on this rod. So to illustrate this, let's say you're using some plastics. If you look, the 1/12 size jig head weighs 2.4 grams, which is under the 4 gram minimum cast weight for that rod. So it wouldn't cast very well. Even when you add your soft plastic to this jig head, it's still going to be only just over 4 grams. So it wouldn't cast as well as if you used a size 1/6 jig head or a 1/4 ounce jig head, which weighs 7 grams or 4.7 grams. The good thing about plastics though, you are able to keep the same soft plastic lure and just change your jig head so it doesn't go to waste. Whereas if you're using a hard body lure, you can't change the weight of the lure. So you're then restricted to the cast weight of your rod. That's why it's really important you have some sort of idea what type of lures you plan on using before you choose your fishing rod, so you can check out what weight range those lures fall in. To give you another example, this rod is a 9.6 ml, which means it's a 9-foot 6-inch in length, medium light action rod. Now it's got a jig weight of 10 to 50 grams or a plug weight of 10 to 45 grams with a PE rating of PE1 to PE2. This means if you're using a jig style lure, you're limited to a minimum 10 grams or a maximum 50 grams, whereas if you're using a plug style lure, you're limited to a minimum 10 grams and maximum 45 grams in order to get the best possible cast. And then the PE rating is the measurement system that line manufacturers use to rate their line diameters. So a PE 1 to 2 line is roughly 10 to 20 pounds breaking strain. Depending on the brand, this can vary drastically based on the quality of the braid. To give you another example, this is more of a jigging style rod. It's a spin 5'6" rod with a cast weight of 1 to 200 grams with a PE rating 3 to 4. This style of rod is generally used on boats and is designed more for vertical jigging, for jigs that weigh anywhere from 1 to 200 grams in order to get the best action out of that rod. Any more than 200 grams would most likely snap your tip. Any less than 100 grams, you won't get the right action out of that jig. That's why it's so important to pay attention to those details on your rod before you commit to buying it. Now to give you an example on a surf rod, it's 13 foot, 15 to 25 kilo with a cast weight of 100 to 250 grams. And it says heavy action, which means this is a much stiffer rod. Now that 100 to 250 gram cast weight rating, so that cast weight would be the combined weight of your sinker and your bait. Now a 13 footer you would normally use for bait fishing off the beach. Any less than 100 grams won't cast so well, and you also won't be able to load the blank, which again would cause no tension in your line when you wind it back in, or lack of tension in your line. And on your next cast you're most likely to get a tangle. Whereas if you exceed 250 grams, there's a pretty high chance that you snap the tip of that rod. So generally when it comes to the maximum cast weight of whichever rod you're using, you want to get as close as you can to the maximum without actually exceeding it to get the best possible cast, and you need to make sure you're using the line that's recommended on that rod. Anything heavier would have a line diameter too thick and would reduce your casting distance. Anything lighter will most likely snap on the cast if you're approaching that maximum cast weight. There's obviously exceptions to this when you get into the really heavy stuff, but as a general rule, it's best to follow the manufacturer's recommendation, which is always found on the rod. Now you will notice that with fiberglass rods, they've only got the length and the line class, and they don't give you a cast weight. For example, this fiberglass rod is a 962 HS, which means it's 9 foot 6 inches. It's a 2-piece rod. It's a heavy action spin rod, and the line rating is 6 to 10 kilos. But you'll notice that there's no cast weight. That's because this is a fiberglass rod, and fiberglass rods are significantly tougher than graphite rods, but they're nowhere near as light and nowhere near as sensitive, but they are very forgiving and very suitable for beginners. The only issue with fiberglass rods is they're not really designed for lures, so you won't get proper action out of your lure and you won't get a proper cast out of your lure either. So if you're bait fishing and you're a beginner, fiberglass is normally the way to go. But if you want the best possible cast for your lures, you definitely want to use a graphite rod, and you definitely need to make sure you're following the cast weights and line classes that are specified on your rod. I hope this video is helpful, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.